Probably best to start at the very beginning. When I was 13, I lived inside a computer. I'm not exaggerating. While other teens were sneaking out to drink cheap vodka or make out in the back seats of their parents' cars, I spent whole days hunched over a glowing monitor, half blind from endless hours staring at forums and multiplayer lobbies. Yes, it was lonely. But loneliness is easier to live with if you convince yourself everyone else lives in a world you'll never belong to. Online, I could pretend. I could be wittier, braver, smarter, hell, even taller. No one saw how awkward I was, how fast my hair got greasy, how my voice cracked and broke like a busted radio signal whenever I spoke. That's when I met Cal. At first, it was just a random back and forth on a late-night horror game forum. He replied to one of my posts about creepypastas. Something about how most of them were trash, except the ones that sounded like they could have been true. His handle was simple. Caliber 13. No edgy anime avatar, no wall of GIFs and glittery signatures. Just the default gray icon and a handful of thoughtful comments. I don't know why, but I answered him. One reply turned into a thread, and soon we were talking off the forum. Then voice calls. Then video. Looking back, it's strange how fast I trusted him. Maybe because he never pushed. He never laughed when I stumbled over my words. Never asked for photos I wasn't comfortable sharing. Never got bored when I ran off on long rants about the dumbest crap. With him, I felt safe. By 15, Cal was the closest friend I'd ever had. We grew up together, at least online. I remember his laugh, a low, raspy chuckle that sounded like it belonged to someone older. He claimed he was only a year ahead of me, but I never pressed for details. It didn't matter. We shared everything. My first broken heart? He stayed on voice with me until dawn, repeating that the girl didn't deserve me. His first job? He streamed his shifts at a dingy grocery store so I could keep him company while he ran the same mop over the same yellowing tiles, again and again. And then, as it so often happens, life got in the way. College, work, relationships, months between conversations, sometimes a year. But every time we reconnected, it was easy, like no time had passed at all. Our last truly serious talk was about 2 years ago. He was evasive, quieter than usual. Said he was dealing with family stuff. Didn't elaborate. His camera was off that night, which was odd. Cal liked to be on screen when we talked. But I let it go. Figured he'd tell me when he was ready. Fast forward to last month. I'd just moved for work. A small town. New place. No friends. I was unpacking when a notification popped up on my laptop. A Discord message. From Cal. Cal, you still alive in there? My heart skipped. Not from fear. From that strange, aching feeling you get when you hear a song you loved once and somehow forgot. We talked for hours that night, catching up on everything we'd missed. His job, my job, his headaches, my insomnia. Somewhere in there I asked the question that had been sitting on my tongue for years. Hey, why don't we finally meet? In person? There was a pause. Longer than it should have been. I thought he might ghost me again. But he wrote, Cal. Yeah. Guess it's time. I should have been thrilled. Hell, I was. But there was something in his words that nagged at me. He didn't suggest a place. Didn't ask about my schedule. Just said he'd let me know soon. A week later, he finally sent an address. Not a restaurant. Not a cafe. Just a street corner in a town about 40 minutes from me. It felt weird. But I told myself I was being paranoid. After all these years, wasn't this what I wanted? To finally see him face to face? I went. The town he sent me to was quiet, like it had been set in amber. Rows of brick storefronts, most of them boarded up or closed early. The kind of main street where even the streetlights looked tired. I parked, checked the address, and waited. 10 minutes, 20, 30. Finally, I saw someone on the other side of the street. Tall, dark hoodie, standing perfectly still under a flickering orange streetlight. Something about him clenched my chest. He didn't wave, didn't step forward. He just stood there, watching. And even though I couldn't see his face, I knew, in my gut. It was Cal. I almost didn't get out of the car. My hand hovered over the door handle for an eternity, knuckles white, pulse pounding so hard I thought I might throw up. I wasn't expecting some Hollywood reunion, but I thought he might at least lift a hand. Maybe smile that crooked smile I'd seen 100 times on camera. Instead, he stood there, a statue, under the buzzing light. The shadow at his feet fluttering like it had a life of its own. At last, I forced myself to move. I shut the door softly, like I was afraid of scaring something off. Cal? My voice broke on his name. The figure tilted his head, just a little, like a dog that's heard a sound it doesn't recognize. And he started toward me. Up close, the details didn't match my memory. His hoodie looked sun-faded, almost bleached in patches, like it had been left out too long. His jeans hung loose, the knees gone fuzzy with pilling. And his skin. God, his skin looked pale. Not just pale. Thin, like there was nothing underneath it. But when he spoke, the sound was right. That same rasp of a chuckle. The familiar cadence. Long time, huh? I swallowed. Yeah, too long. For a second the tension eased. I even smiled. And then I noticed something. His lips weren't moving when he talked. At first I figured the streetlight was playing tricks. But the more he kept going. Traffic bad? You're taller than I pictured. Still a night owl? His mouth barely twitched. The words came through clearly, and his face stayed slack, almost frozen. I let out a nervous laugh, trying to smother the unease crawling under my ribs. Looks like it. You don't look how I expected. He tilted his head again, exactly the same way. Really? Yeah. Well, older, I guess? That chuckle again, dry and sandpapery. Guess we both changed. We walked. He didn't ask where my car was, didn't suggest we go anywhere. He just drifted along the sidewalk and I, like an idiot, trailed after him. I tried to fill the silence. Remember that game we used to grind? Dead Horizon? Can't believe the servers are still up. His answer snapped out too fast, too sharp. I remember. Dude, the way we'd raid till 4... I remember. I shut up. There was a hard edge in his voice, like every word was being forced through clenched teeth. When I looked at him in profile, I saw something that tightened my throat. The eyes. They weren't on me. They weren't on anything. Just wide and glassy, staring straight ahead, like he was walking a route he'd memorized long ago. We stopped in front of a boarded-up store. The planks were rotten, the edges curled, the graffiti paint half scraped away. There used to be a diner here, he said flatly. I worked here. Once. I frowned. Wait. I thought you worked at a 24/7 convenience store. Another pause. Then, like he was reading off a card. I did. I worked here too. I worked everywhere. The way he said it raised goosebumps along my arms, like they weren't his words. I forced a laugh. You're a real cryptic bastard. Not giving me anything to grab onto, man. That's when he turned fully to me for the first time. And I swear to God, the face wasn't Cal's anymore. It looked like him. Sure. The same cheekbones, the stubble, even the faint scar on the chin. But there was something stretched about it. Like a mask molded almost right, but not quite. The smile too wide, the eyes too dull, the skin smooth where there should have been texture. I'm glad you came, he said. And even though it was Cal's voice, an icy wave hit my bloodstream. Because for the first time, I understood. I had no idea who the hell I was talking to. I barely slept that night. I lay there replaying every second, every word, trying to convince myself it hadn't been that strange. Maybe the light was off. Maybe the hoodie made him look thinner. Maybe I was just nervous and plastered all my paranoia onto him. But no matter how many excuses I stacked up, I couldn't get his mouth out of my head. The way the words came without movement, the glassy eyes looking straight through me, and that face. Almost, but not quite. Like someone sculpted a copy of my friend from memory, and the details didn't all make it in. By morning, I'd almost convinced myself I imagined half of it. Sleep deprivation does that, right? Warps perception, breaks memory. I opened Discord. No new messages. I scrolled our chat back, desperate for something to ground me. Jokes, links, dumb memes we used to fling at each other. It was all there. But when I went far enough, I found something I swear hadn't been there before. A message sent from his account almost 6 years ago. Cal, don't forget me. And that was it. No context. No follow-up. A single line in the middle of years of conversation. I stared at it until my eyes burned, because I was sure. I would have remembered that. I would have. Later that day, I tried to ground myself the normal way. Find something physical. Proof that Cal was real. That our friendship wasn't a fever dream. I dug through old hard drives, found screenshots, clips from our late-night sessions. His voice on the recording, laughing at my terrible aim. His webcam in the corner. Muddy, pixelated, but undeniably him. But the deeper I went, the weirder it got. Some files wouldn't open. Others played with corrupted audio. His voice stretching and wobbling, syllables pulling into moans. And in one folder, in a place I was sure I'd never saved anything, I found a video called Cal Last Chat, MP4. The timestamp said it was created 2 months ago. We hadn't spoken in 2 years. I opened it with shaking hands. The image was dark, grainy. Cal sat in his room, the one I remembered, peeling posters, crooked blinds. He stared into the camera, motionless, his face slack, his eyes glassy. For almost a minute he didn't blink, didn't speak. And then, without moving his lips, in that same raspy voice, he said, "You said you wanted to meet." I snapped the laptop shut so fast I thought I'd crack the screen. The rest of the day I couldn't focus on anything. Couldn't eat. Couldn't decide what was even real anymore. Did I make him up? Did I build this friendship that spanned my whole teenage life out of thin air? Was I so lonely? I assembled a person from scraps of forums, voices, and late-night dreams. I even Googled his old handle, Caliber 13, hoping to find old posts, anything to prove to myself he wasn't a figment. But in every thread he'd ever replied to, he was gone, deleted, scrubbed, like he'd never existed at all. That night I lay in the dark, soaking the sheets with sweat. I picked up my phone more than once, my thumb hovering over his name, on Discord. Every time I stopped. What would I even say? Hey, you looked like a mannequin wearing my friend's skin last night. Was that on purpose? Around 3 a.m., just as I was drifting, a notification hit. New message. Cal. Do you still want to know the truth? My mouth went dry. I didn't type anything. I just stared at the words while the cursor blinked in my silent room. And then, Cal. Meet me again. The second meeting wasn't my idea. I swore I wouldn't go. I'd block his account, delete Discord, bury the old drives, and forget. But at 3 a.m., his message was still glowing on my screen. Cal. Meet me again. I caved. I needed answers. This time he sent not a corner, but an old park, on the outskirts. I remembered passing it, a rusted swing jutting from the weeds like a bone. I went at sunset, as the last light bled out of the sky. The park was empty, only insects buzzing in the grass. He was already there, sitting on the swing. The chains squeaked as he rocked lazily, sneakers gouging the dirt. He only looked up when I got very close. Hey, he said. And for the first time his lips actually moved with a word. I almost felt relief. Almost. until I noticed his mouth lagged behind the sound, like a bad dub. We talked, or tried to. I asked where he'd been all these years. He said, home. I asked about the diner, the 24/7 place, his family. He said, I worked everywhere, lived nowhere. The family's gone. I asked why the messages showed impossible dates, why the voice didn't come out of him right. He just smiled. You always wanted me to be real. The way he said it twisted my stomach, like it wasn't about him at all. Like it was about me. Halfway through, a man walked by with a dog. Just a middle-aged guy in headphones with a leash in his hand. He barely glanced at me, until his eyes landed on Cal. The man froze. The dog whined, jerking, trying to drag its owner away. Hey, I called, trying to sound casual. You okay? He didn't answer. His face drained of color. He only shook his head slowly, muttered something under his breath, and practically hauled the dog back the way he'd come. When I turned back, Cal was baring his teeth. They don't like me, he said. I wanted to howl. The more I looked at him, the more wrong he was. His skin wasn't just pale. It was translucent. In the light of the nearest lamp, I thought I saw dark, moving shapes beneath it. Veins that didn't look like veins. And the eyes. They weren't glassy anymore. They were hungry. I stood so fast the other swing clanged. I have to go. He didn't move, didn't try to stop me. He only said, see you soon. I tore home like a maniac, checking the rear view every 30 seconds, half expecting to see him sitting in the back seat. At home, I locked every door and window, jammed a chair under the knob, and sat in the dark, shaking, waiting for a new message. Because I knew he would write, and I knew I wouldn't be able to stop myself from answering. I couldn't get the face of the man with the dog out of my head. That pure, undiluted fear. Not confusion. Not annoyance. Fear. That told me more than anything else. I wasn't losing my mind. It wasn't fatigue or nostalgia or spiraling paranoia. Something was deeply wrong with Cal, and I needed to know what. First things first. Basic stuff. Name. Where he was from. Anything. But here's the thing. After nearly a decade of friendship, I realized I knew almost nothing about him. His full name had never come up. I'd never seen a license, never heard a hometown. He was always just Cal. I went back to his old handle. Caliber 13. This time, I went deeper. Caches. Archives of that horror forum where we met. Almost everything was gone. Deleted. But in a forgotten snapshot from 2012, I found a lead. In one post there was a signature he must have added and then removed. A line. Calvin R. Fear only feels real if you let it. Calvin. It was weird seeing a full name, like I'd dug up something I wasn't supposed to see. I copied it into a search, added the state I'd moved to, and my stomach dropped. Because the top result wasn't brought a LinkedIn or a dusty Facebook. It was an obituary. Calvin R., 19, passed unexpectedly in 2015. I couldn't breathe. I clicked the link with shaking hands. There was a photo. Not perfect. Grainy, like a scanned yearbook page. But it was him. The same slant to the jawline, that same scar on the chin, those same eyes. The obituary mentioned a wreck. A foggy night, a late shift, black ice. He was driving home from the 24/7 store. Date of death. February 7th, 2015. 8 years ago. 8 years. And 2 weeks ago, I'd been talking to him. I told myself it was a mistake. Maybe someone with the same name. A look-alike. But I couldn't let it go. The funeral home was still in business. Tiny. 2 towns over. I went the next day. A low brick building with peeling paint and an old sign creaking in the wind. The man at the front desk frowned when I asked about Calvin. Are you family? He asked. No. Just, an old friend. He squinted like he was deciding whether to throw me out. Sighed and disappeared into the back. He returned with a yellowed folder and set it on the counter. Inside, 1 page. Death certificate. Name, Calvin R. Age, 19. Cause, MVA. Date, February 7th, 2015. I stared until the letters swam. The man cleared his throat. You said you were a friend? Yeah, I rasped. Online. He looked at me in a way I'll never forget. Sympathy, mixed with alarm. You're not the first, he said quietly. I looked up. What do you mean? He shut the folder. Others have come in, over the years. All said they were friends. All swore they'd spoken to him. After. I went numb. Sometimes, he added even softer, the dead don't lie still. Some linger. Some change. I left then. That night, back home, I sat staring at the obituary on my screen. Calvin, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. I didn't know if that was who I'd met, or the thing wearing his face. But one thing was clear. My best friend had been dead for almost a decade. I don't have much time. I'm typing in the dark, every lock thrown, the chair still braced under the doorknob. The laptop's on the floor, the screen dim. The only light in the room. Because he's outside. I know it's him. It started about an hour ago. A knock on the door. 3 slow blows that rolled through the wood. I froze. Didn't answer. Then his voice, muffled, but unmistakable. Hey, it's me. Let me in. I kept quiet. Another knock. Harder. You wanted to meet. I'm here. I whispered to myself. You're dead. You've been dead for years. And then, on the other side of the door, he laughed. That same raspy chuckle I'd been hearing since I was a kid. It's been 30 minutes since. He hasn't left. Every few minutes he speaks again. Sometimes soft, coaxing. Come on, don't be scared. Sometimes sharp, angry. You owe me. I gave you everything. And once, God help me, once it was my own voice at the door. Please, let me in. I tried calling the police. The phone won't connect, just static in my ear like someone breathing right into the mic. I tried messaging friends. Discord won't open. The only active chat is his. He's typing now. I can see the little notification blinking. Typing. And it doesn't stop. A few minutes ago, metal groaned. I think he's picking at the lock. The chair under the knob shivers sometimes, like something heavier than a person is leaning into the door. And then I looked up. There's a shadow under the gap at the bottom. It doesn't look like feet. It looks like hands. Palms, flat to the floor. Fingers reaching too long. Bending in ways they shouldn't. Hooking and dragging closer. I don't know what happens when he gets in. I don't even know if he's still Cal. Maybe he never was. Maybe I made him up, and he put himself back together out of me. I only know one thing. He doesn't stop knocking. And I'm running out of time. If anyone reads this, if anyone else knew him, don't answer. Don't meet. Don't let him in. Because once you do, he doesn't leave.